This lesson is number 8. This is on perpendicular lines. We're going to first start off with a definition of perpendicular lines. So perpendicular lines are two lines in the same plane that intersect to form right angles. Remember, right angles are 90-degree angles. So, the key thing that you need to remember about perpendicular lines is that they have opposite reciprocal slopes. Excuse me. So that means that if I look at two equations, opposite means that if it is positive, your new slope will turn negative. If it is negative, your new slope will turn positive. Remember that a reciprocal is a fraction like a over b. The reciprocal then becomes b over a. So I'm going to flip that fraction. So here I have a slope of 1/2. The reciprocal, this is positive, so now it becomes negative. 2 as a fraction is 2 over 1. So if I take 1/2 and flip it, it becomes 2 over 1. Now the important thing to remember about perpendicular lines is that when you multiply their slopes together, so 1/2 multiplied with -2, which remember I said was -2 over 1, multiply fractions straight across. 1 times 2 is 2. 2 times 1 is 2. A positive times a negative is a negative. Perpendicular lines, slopes, when you multiply them together, will equal -1. So when I take a look at this first example, it says write an equation in slope-intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b, for a line that passes through the point 2, 5, so that's an x value and a y value, and is perpendicular to the line y equals -1/3 x plus 3. The only thing I care about in this equation is the coefficient in front of x, that is my slope. So I will be taking the opposite reciprocal of this. So remember, as I said before, the only thing I care about is this -1/3, so I'm not going to pay attention to this plus 3. So step 1, what you want to do in writing in slope-intercept form for a line that's perpendicular, is you want to determine the perpendicular slope. So my given slope in this equation was -1/3. The symbol for perpendicular is an upside down capital T. My perpendicular slope, this is negative, so my new slope will be positive. 1/3 is my fraction, so I want to take the reciprocal of that, so that would be 3 over 1, or we can just write this as 3. Okay. To verify, -1/3 multiplied with 3 over 1. Negative times a positive is a negative. 1 times 3 is 3. 3 times 1 is 3. This whole thing equals -1. Step 2. We want to put the perpendicular slope and the given point into point slope form. Point slope form is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So substitute in what we know. We know that our new slope is 3, so we'll take out m and put that in its place. Y will always be in the problem, and x will always be in the problem. Just like in the parallel lines notes, I told my students I want them to take the opposite of this number, so the opposite of 2 is -2, and that would go in the parentheses next to x. Opposite of 5 is -5, that goes with the y, so your equation in point slope form is y minus 5 equals 3 times the quantity x minus 2. Step 3. We want to put that equation into slope-intercept form. Which means that we're just going to take that equation and we're going to solve for y. So y minus 5 equals 3 times the quantity x minus 2. Step 1, we want to distribute. So we're going to distribute the slope. 3 times x is 3x. 3 times negative 2 is negative 6. And I still have y minus 5 out front. From there, what we want to do is we want to add or subtract the number by y to both sides. So in this case it's minus 5, so I want to add 5 to both sides to get y by itself. So y equals 3x negative 6 plus 5 is negative 1. So this is my equation that is perpendicular to the given line through the given point. In example B, here they want us to write the equation in slope-intercept form for the line that passes through 1, 2. So remember that's an x value and a y value, and is perpendicular to the line y equals x plus 4. So the only thing that we care about in this equation is the coefficient in front of x. Since there's nothing there, it is implied that there is a 1. So, step 1, determine the perpendicular slope. My given slope is 1. My perpendicular slope, since this is positive, needs to become the opposite, so that is negative. 1 as a fraction is 1 over 1. So if I take this fraction and I flip it, I still get 1 over 1. So this whole thing reduces to negative 1. So my given slope was 1. My perpendicular slope is negative 1. Step 2. Put into y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So substitute in what we know. We know that our new slope is negative 1. We know that x will always be in the problem and y will always be in the problem. I want to take the opposite of 1 and put that next to the x, so that would be minus 1. Opposite of 2 and put that next to the y, so that would be minus 2. And now I'm in point-slope form. Step 3. Take this equation and put it into slope-intercept form, which means that we're solving for y. So the first thing we want to do is distribute. Negative 1 times x is negative 1x. Negative 1 times negative 1 is positive 1. And I still have y minus 2 out front. From there, I want to add 2 to both sides to get y by itself. So y equals negative 1x plus 3. So this line is perpendicular to the given line because my slopes are opposite reciprocals and it goes through the given point. At this point, what I'd like you to do is to try the 2 u-tries on your own. So go ahead and pause the video, and when you're ready to see the solutions, unpause. Alright, so for the ones that I had you try on your own, for C, you should have gotten y equals negative 1/5 x plus 2. The given slope was 5. So if you want to find the opposite reciprocal, opposite of a positive is a negative. 5 as a fraction is 5 over 1. So if you flip the fraction, you get 1 over 5. When you substitute in through the given point and solve for y, this is your solution. For D, which I had you try on your own, you should have gotten y equals 2x plus 7. So your given slope was negative 1/2. The opposite of a negative is a positive. If I take 1/2 and flip it as a fraction, that's 2 over 1, or just simply 2. So when I solve for y through the given point, you get y equals 2x plus 7.